Welcome to Ask Nelda Almost Anything. My name is Nelda Schulte,
I'm Gil Doc is good.
and our online business is called neldaschulte.com.
We haven't done that in a while.
There's our banner in the background there. And it's designed to help property investors and landlords build a profitable do-it-yourself business. And I do this with videos, articles, reports, online courses on membership sites. So free and paid resources. And the reason I do this is because when I bought my first property, I was like a deer in the headlights. And I made tons of mistakes. I bought the wrong kind of property, and real estate costs you a lot of money. Mistakes in real estate can really sink you. So I wanted to make it my mission to help people bypass the landmines that I stepped in by providing a service that would support them as landlords and property investors. And that's why I am doing Ask Nelda, because there are so many really wonderful subject matter experts out in the field, like Don Gray, who will be our guest tonight. And Don has lots of really good things to share with us about landlording. Our tonight's topic is damage claims, what, when, and how. And as mentioned, our special guest is Don Gray of Edmonton Eviction Services. Don is a sucker for punishment because after owning and working a property management business for many years, he decided to take the most fun component, evictions, and turn that into a business. Now, I don't know why you think this is fun, Don. You have a warped sense of humor, but good on you. I'm glad you're doing it and not me.
Somebody needs to do it.
So welcome, Don.
Welcome. Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. And it's always good to be a little bit off the wall. And that way people don't know what to expect. Eh?
Yeah. Well, that's you all the time. I think people never know what to expect with you.
Hey.
They take a look at this big ugly guy, and they think, "Oh my God, there's trouble." And then little kids and dogs see through me right away. Anything that'll pee on your leg or in your lap, that they're attracted to me, and we get along just fine.
Good for you. Good for you. I think Gil's got a few questions he wants to ask you tonight that don't involve kids or dogs, or maybe they do.
And I am definitely not going to be on your leg. So let's start with what a damage claim is and how you file them.
What is a damage claim? Well, a damage claim comes after the tenant has moved out and you've got possession of your unit back, and you look around and you think, "Oh my God, this is going to cost me a fortune." And so that's when you would look at doing a damage claim. A damage claim is all about the money. This is all cold, hard facts. I've had people come to me and they're all upset because the tenant has wrecked their place, and and when you get down to it, it's basically dirty and a couple of scratches, and we're talking probably $300 or $400 worth of damage.
Right.
And it's not financially worthwhile, no matter how much you want to throttle them for leaving a place in bad condition when they got it in good condition. So you gotta look at it from a non-emotional point of view.
Right.
So the steps you would do is you would take pictures of the damages. And you should do that anyway, whether you plan on doing a damage claim or not. You should have that in your file of how the house was left. 2 years down the road, they sue you for the security deposit because you deducted some stuff off it, and you got no records. Well, you're going to lose. You'll have to pay that money to them.
Can I just interrupt you for a second? Like, how long do people have to sue you for a security deposit after they moved out?
Either way, whether it's landlord to tenant or tenant to landlord, it's 2 years from discovery. So in the case of a damage claim, it would be when you get possession. That's when you discover it.
Okay.
Even if you knew about it before and hoped that they would fix it or whatever, when you take possession, that's when the clock would start ticking. The tenants would be the same thing when they've given over the keys. Then Actually, we start 10 days later. You're supposed to give them your summary of what you're deducting from the security deposit in 10 days. So that's when they would discover that you took more money than they thought you should.
Okay.
So you can get sued 2 years, up to 2 years, and I've had cases come through where the landlord is just panicky. They get served at the very last minute. You know, these people are not dumb. They're just not honest. Uh, and so they wait till the very last minute and to serve, and of course it's right at the end of the 2 years, and they come to me, and I've had a few of them now where they're all panicked. What are we going to do? So we help them best we can. We find their records and what records they have, and to fight this countersuit. So that's how you fight being sued for your security deposit, is you have to countersue for the security deposit.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, that's a different night. What we're talking about tonight is damage claims. So you would take pictures, get all the good idea of damage. Take one up a little closer, and then take one a little back, so you get so that you get a perspective of what it is. I mean, I've seen holes that looked like they were massive, and then when in reality they were about the size of your thumbnail.
Right.
And,
I've been told that you should actually have your hand against the wall or something to give it a little.
A hand, a ruler, a book, anything.
Yeah, rulers or a book, and then they actually show the measurement of the book or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm just going to back up a little bit. What about how much should you sue for a damage claim? Like, is there sort of a cutoff point where you say anything under this, forget it? It needs to be this or above.
Yeah, my estimation is you need to get about $2,000 more than what the security deposit is. So if you got a $1,500 security deposit, you're looking at doing a damage claim of $3,500 or more. So that's kind of where when people come to me, that's where I say under that, it's just not worthwhile. You're gonna because there's going to be deductions. And we'll get into that a little more with how the RTDRS handles that. But the process will be that you take the pictures, then you do the repairs, get all the receipts, or if you do work yourself, write a receipt to what I do is I write the receipt to the property, and put some detail. And we don't have to write a novel, but some detail of what you did, so that the judge can see. Oh, I mean, you charge $1,000. What'd you do for $1,000?
Right.
Got some detail. Then afterwards, take some pictures of the repairs, so that it's kind of bad, and then repaired or rent ready, sale ready, whatever you're going to do, and that's for comparison. Then you look at all the money you spent, and you say, is this going to be worthwhile? Okay. And I'll help anybody through that. You got some facts and figures, and I'll spend some time with you to see if that's going to be worthwhile. One of the things that the RTDRS does when they come to the complaint or claim process is they apply depreciation.
Oh, right.
So, okay. For example, if a wall has been, they figure a paint job is good for 8 years.
Okay.
In your house and my house, we can probably get 20 years out of it. Yeah. But unless you're one of
Nelda gets a beater bonnet to change the color of the wall.
Yeah, don't give her any ideas.
Gil gets another.
You're not painting because the paint's no good anymore. They're wore out. But on a rental, and I concur with 8 to 10 years. You get 2 or 3 or 4 different tenants in there, and that paint is well worn and used. Yeah. So the idea being that if somebody did a whole pile of damage to walls, and it was painted 4 years ago, and last painted 4 years ago, and now it's repaired and it has to be painted, and the judge will say, okay, the value of that paint job is whatever. I'm only going to award 50%.
Right.
Okay, so it's sort of like an insurance claim. Yeah, where, it's, let's say you're like an insurance claim, let's say your sofa gets damaged in the flood. They say, well, how old is your sofa? What did you pay for it when you bought it? Okay, that was 5 years ago. We depreciated at a rate of this amount. So we're not going to give you the full $2,000 for your sofa. We're going to give you 35 or 40% of value. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But sorry, just a question. If they punched a hole in the drywall, is there actual depreciation on the drywall as well, or is that?
No, that's deliberate damage. They make the hole. You take a picture of the hole, and then you show that after it's been fixed and taped and sanded and painted, and then it doesn't show up at all anymore. And that's a fix. So you can charge for that damage. Now, if it's in the middle of a wall, it's pretty hard to match the paint. So they would allow you to paint that one wall.
Okay.
And then at that point, I presume your 50% rule would apply if it was a 4-year-old paint job?
No, actually, if it's just one wall, there's a big hole in it, body slammed. I've seen lots of those body slammed. And so you got to fix that big piece. And you show a picture in the middle with when it's been taped and you got this great big space of repair, and then at the end where you painted over it, and they would allow that as a repair. It's when you have dings all over the house, or all over the rumpus room, or all over the front room, and you're looking at painting 6 or 8 walls, and or painting the whole thing. That's when the depreciation comes in.
Okay.
It's just a repair. That's a different ball of wax.
Okay,
You're
right.
entitled to.
It's almost like normal wear and tear.
Yep. Now you get dings all around the house. I had one where the fellow was really upset. It was a brand new house, the first tenants, and they had a dog and a cat, and anyway, there was dings all over the place, and he was adamant that he was going after him for the whole paint job, which I think it was $8,000 or $9,000, and it was a good sized house, and the judge just said that's not it's not appropriate. That's just normal wear and tear. He had pictures of everything and all the steps, and it was one of those that was being used as a vehicle. The guy wanted to do it himself, but he just didn't want to do it himself. So I was his vehicle, and he made it very clear that he didn't care what I said, so, which is fine. His money is good, so.
So the judge would let him claim any of the.
No, he had I believe that claim was somewhere north of $20,000.
Wow.
And he ended up getting $700.
Well, I got something, but I mean, really, is it worth it? It's like paying a lawyer $500 an hour to file a claim so you can get $500 back. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. We had a couple when we were property managers, and they had rented we had rented it for their it was a fairly new property, and a couple had lived there, and they loved the couple. They thought the couple were just great, and they'd split up at one point, gotten back together again, split up a second time, and that's when he moved out. And when we were doing the move-out inspection, they'd left already, and the couple who owned it were perfectly fine with the way they said, "Oh, he left it in great condition." There were actually fist marks in the doors. You could see he put his fist through it. I'm like, well, what about that door there? Like, that wasn't there during the move-in inspection. Like, oh, we can get that fixed. Like, didn't bother them at all. They had 2 dogs. They peed all over the carpet upstairs. I don't think they ever used the outside. And I'm like, what about the carpet? And they're like, we'll just get it cleaned. But it really didn't bother her. She didn't really think it looked not very clean. She was perfectly willing to rent it as is. And I'm like, no. We got to fix these things up for the next people who come in. But anyway.
Yep. Cleanliness is subjective. I can tell you some stories, boy, that just make your hair curl. Yeah.
We've seen a lot of stuff. So I
on both ends. There's people that are extremely clean. I had one mother who just fought me tooth and nail. The place was absolutely spotless, I was warned that she was picky, so please do extra clean. Before they came, I had two cleaners go through everything. Paid them 4 hours. They did a half-hour work, and it was that clean. And she came in and she just would not. She fought me tooth and nail. Her daughter wasn't going to live there. It was a filthy, stinking mess. And after a while, after talking with her for a while, it came out. She finally admitted that no place could be clean unless she cleaned it.
Right. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. That was her level. And
Yes.
and I've had others in that, somebody went in, there's a mess, and this guy, he's anxious to get in. And I said, give me a day. I got some cleaners coming. We're going to make this nice, at least, and maybe not fantastic, but nice.
Mhm.
And he looked around and said, "Oh, this is fine."
Yeah. Well, guy clean.
Yeah,
I've got a tenant in one of my properties too, and she moved from the downstairs to the upstairs, and she spent 3 days cleaning. And I had said to her, you don't have to clean this. I'll hire cleaners. It goes out of the security deposit from the former tenants if it doesn't meet the standards. It's the same with her. It would not be clean until she cleaned it. And she took pictures of before and she took pictures of after, and she was extremely thorough, like unbelievably thorough. And I said, well, I'm really glad you're living there because the place is doubly spotless right now. So that's great. But yeah, standards. Everyone's got their own standards.
yeah. I always say that there's clean and there's Nelda clean.
Yeah.
She's got a very high set of
But
standards.
I'm not even as clean as my tenant. Like the tenant is just.
Yeah. I've had them cleaning so much that they took the paint right off.
Yeah.
No.
Then again, we've had some properties back when we were managing properties that were so disgusting, and we'd want to go in and send cleaners in, and the owners would say, "Oh, it's fine. I don't know what the problem is." This is where I always like to throw out that little comment that you're going to get the quality of tenant that you have as quality of your property. So if you have a dirty, disgusting property, you're going to get people who can live in that environment, and they're not going to be optimal tenants.
No.
Yeah.
And if people say, well, it's okay, I'll do the cleaning before I move in, it's not always I would call that a bit of a red flag, because if people are willing to take a place dirty, it's not a good sign.
Although we had that one person who had all these allergy cleanings.
Yeah, well, they wanted to clean with their own products. So fair enough.
That was a different thing.
So we got through where you file a claim if it's $2,000 more than your security deposit. Don't file a claim if it's under $2,000 more than what you could get for your security deposit.
And the other part of the one question is, you said 2 years after discovery.
Yeah, discovery of the problem. So if as an owner, you would discover the problem when you took possession.
Okay.
Yeah. So for the tenant on the other side, they would discover that you didn't give them what they figure they deserved on their security deposit, or they were looking for an abatement of rent when they didn't receive or when they received their 10-day summary.
Okay.
So you can't, like, the 2 years is, it's assumed the discovery is at the point of the transfer, when it's the owner or the property manager taking the property back. You can't wait a year and say, oh, wait, look at that. My tenant broke that. I'm going to have to go back and go after them for that.
No, you can't. There's a difference. I should maybe explain this. When you do a move-in inspection and you do a move-out inspection, and then you do the difference, and this is what occurred while they were there, and you subtract, of course, normal wear and tear. That's one level. But if you go in and you find that they've left on you, or anyway, usually the tenants aren't there, they've taken off. That's the usual case.
Okay.
And you go in and you find all this stuff. Well, you gotta do your move out inspection anyway, or sometimes there isn't a move-in inspection. Nobody did it. They thought, I've had lots of reasons, it's a brand new unit, why would I do a move-in inspection? No, because you got to have something to compare it to. We didn't understand that. But then this a damage claim is a level above that. So you're saying that the tenants during their stay caused such damages that I couldn't re-rent it until I got it fixed. So
Okay.
then you're looking at not only the damages but lost rent. You couldn't rent this place because you were fixing it, so you lost a month's rent or 2 months rent. If it happened in October and you fixed it in November, you may not be able to get a new tenant in there until February.
Mm.
And so, you could have got somebody in October, but you couldn't because the place wasn't ready to be lived in. So you can add those expenses to it. It's got to be reasonable, and you got to show that you were trying to advertise it. What I tell people is, wherever you advertise it, Facebook or Rentboard or RentFast or whatever. There's 100 of them now. You get a receipt for what you spent.
Mm-hmm.
I think RentFaster has points or something,
Yeah, they all have a tracking system. You can go in and get your receipts back for the year or the month or whatever, and for the dates.
So-
It's really good.
So we would add those costs.
So my next question is, suppose the tenant leaves in, say, May, but they've done something to the furnace, and you don't actually find out about this issue until fall when the furnace is going to get fired up, and then you realize, oh my goodness, our tenant screwed the furnace up, which we've experienced something similar to that.
Or something with the stove. That's the other thing too. The new tenants don't use the stove for the first 3 months. Then they use it and they go, oh, whoa, wait a minute. This and this are wrong and that's wrong. And you didn't have the stove in that condition.
Yeah.
So
Again,
now-
it's a monetary thing. I mean, a furnace, if somebody deliberately, fried the furnace in the spring and you don't find it until the fall, well, I mean, you're talking $6,000 or $8,000. It's going to be worthwhile.
Yeah.
If you can prove it.
Yeah.
You got to be able to prove it. And that's where you need, some experts come in and take a look at it and give you what they think caused it. And, if you can get a couple experts, this is going to be the foundation of your claim. So certainly, yes, you could do that. A stove, well, you can buy a new stove for $400 to $600. It's not going to be worthwhile.
Not worth your while, yeah.
Just eat it and call them names and shake your fist and then it's over.
Yeah. By the way, I did have an experience where a fellow I knew who was not necessarily mentally well and was renting a property went back home to his rental and dismantled the furnace in -30 weather.
Really?
He was an engineer, so it
he needed to know how it worked. Yeah, there's diagrams you can get on the net, tell you exactly how a furnace works.
Yeah.
We also had a guy in a totally unrelated situation who, although this guy did a midnight move and disappeared into the ozone, but he had actually gone on vacation. He had a condo in Calgary. It was like 3rd or 4th floor. Left the window in the kitchen a little bit open, and -30, pipes burst, flooding all the way down, and I don't think they ever got him. Like, he just, as soon as he realized what had happened, he packed his bags. The owner was on vacation. The owner got back to this mess, and there was no tenant there anymore. So I don't think he got anything back. But
that's why it's so important that you insist the tenants have tenant insurance.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, this is so important, more so now than it ever was, because of items like that. And I've seen that several times now where there was a flood for whatever reason that went down 5 or 6 floors. And I had one just a little while ago, earlier in the winter. The guy got this suite that had a fireplace in it. The guy says, "I'll show you how to." The owner says, "I'll show you how to run the fireplace." And the guy says, "No, I won't use that fireplace. Don't bother." And he's, "Are you sure?" Yeah, I don't like fireplaces. Well, sure as heck, 3 weeks later, he has a fire, but he doesn't open the flue,
Oh
and
boy.
all the smoke comes using the fourth floor, right downtown Edmonton, nice posh place. Comes into the unit, the automatic sprinklers come on,
Oh,
and
geez.
flood his and the 3 floors below. And I'm
Yep.
talking serious. Like there was water. They had pictures of after aftermath. There was still like an inch of water on the floors, and every floor down, everything. Oh, it was awful. No
Terrible.
dry. Took all the drywall, soaked all the drywall.
Yep.
And then he tried to blame the owner. So anyway,
Well,
we
you know,
persevered on
it
that one.
makes the joke. I was watching some horror movie about where somebody stuck someone in a fireplace and then drywalled it all up. You know, so it just looked like a regular wall.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm not gonna go that route, but one does get these visions when one goes through things like this.
You gotta swear at them. It might be easier.
Yeah.
Certainly
Well,
less.
I've seen there was a lot of fireplaces built in the 70s in these condominiums or in townhouses, and they turned out to be not as long term as they hoped they would be, and they were a real fire hazard, creosote, and whatever building up inside, and the insurance company said you have to shut those down, and I've seen plenty of there was a guy building inserts. He would measure the fireplace and he'd build you whatever 30, 50, 100 these inserts, and his wife would paint scenes on them,
Oh, cool.
and they'd shove them in the fireplace, and he had a way of putting some screws in, and um, there's this a pretty picture of a landscape or whatever, and in the front room.
That's better than burying somebody behind it. Yeah, I like that idea much better. More artistic. Yeah. Anyway, Bill's got another question.
Oh yeah, yes. Let's go to the next question, which is how do we file a damage claim? What's the process?
Oh, yay. That's my favorite part. So we get all this evidence together, and we apply at the RTDRS. That is the best place. It's the cheapest, and certainly for sure now it's the quickest. And so you would file that, and like you do a eviction or an eviction, and you would get a hearing date. Now, one of the differences between an ordinary uh, eviction and a damage claim is that each person needs to be served on an eviction. If there's 6 people in the unit, you can give 6 copies to one, and he's responsible to give to everybody else. And the damage claim, you got to serve all 6 people.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that's important, especially when couples break up, and you got to try and find both of them. I mean, sometimes if you can find the money guy, the money person, and sometimes it's the girl, and you serve them, and you can't find the other one, well, she takes the full hit.
Yeah.
And whatever happens at the hearing. So you got to serve them. Now, damage claims are normally they give you a couple of months to do all this. So we file now in March, probably be May, mid-May, late May would be the hearing date. So it gives you a chance to find these people and serve them. If you can't serve them in the traditional ways, then you need to ask for abridgment of service so that you can serve in different ways. I had one where the kids, I'm going to say kids, they were in their 20s, had a fire on the stove and did a lot of damage to the cupboards and the wall and what have you. So they went in Conigo. They shut down their Facebook accounts, and it was just like. But we did a lot of digging, and we found the dad husband, the mom and dad were separated, but I found the dad, and I talked to him on the phone once. I found his number, and I talked to him on the phone once, and he said he would talk to them. And through my efforts, I found out where he lived. So when I wasn't getting anything, I applied to serve it to the dad, and I got that. That was, I think, on the edge, but I got it. And so I served the dad, and I think it was 2 days. The daughter, I think, called me and said, "What's this all about?" And we got them, and in time we got them to the hearing, and resolved the problem. But I mean, that's, you got to search sometimes,
Wow.
and sometimes you don't find them. You got to find a way that they might answer. You find an old email address, stuff like that. I've gone through. There's one where the owner kept a bunch of the paperwork that he found laying around. He threw it in a bag, and he says, "Well, maybe there's something in here." And my staff and I went through that, and we found a number scrawled on a piece of paper, and in there, and we phoned the number for the hell of it. It turned out to be the guy's brother.
Oh.
And talking to him, he says, "Oh yeah, I'll hook you up. Call him at this number." So we phoned him and surprised the hell out of him, and asked him if we could serve him. I mean, it's important that he knows what's going on. Something doesn't happen, that he doesn't know about, and so we served him by email, and got him to the hearing. So we just don't know we're going to find something.
For civil court cases, you have to actually put something in their hands. You have to give it to them. Do you have to, like you said, you served this guy by email? How do you have to serve people?
Back then, at that point, I had to get permission. He agreed to it, and so we asked for the abridgment of service, and we got it right away, I think the next day, and it allowed us to. Actually, I sent it to him anyway, praying that I would get permission, and I got it. So that's how you do it nowadays. Because of COVID, you're allowed to serve by email if you can prove that that was like a normal part of communication between you. Things like paying the rent by email transfer.
Right.
It was perfect. Some email messages back and forth. So you include that in the package, and that proves that was a common practice, and that you could serve with it. So that's fairly new. That's within the last 2 years, year and a half, I think, that they're allowing us to do that. And that's only at the RTDRS. Once you get the court order, you're under Queen's Bench rules. And Queen's Bench doesn't allow for email unless the judge orders it. And it's got to be on that order. A Queen's Bench judge has to order that, not an RTDRS judge, a Queen's Bench judge. So that just makes it nearly impossible for us to do that. But they do allow posting after one attempt, whereas RTDRS is looking for multiple attempts. I mean, they got 5 slots on the declaration of service, but you don't have to do 5 slots. Sometimes you have to do more than that. If you're going there and you knock on the door and you can hear the TV going, and after you knock on the door, the TV shuts off, and it gets real quiet. Well, they're there, so you write that down on the thing. The TV's going, was shut off when I knocked, posted to the door. And I've had people that would not open the door, and fine, I'll just post to the door here, and that's for you, and you write that down. But there's more leniency at the RTDRS, but serving of the notice of hearing is extremely important, whether it's a regular eviction or a damage claim. And as I say, that you got to serve everybody involved. So if there's 5 people there, you got to hunt down all 5 if you're going to hold them accountable.
Oh my God, I can't imagine how hard that would be. I think of
Sometimes
one time I filed a civil suit and we had to serve 2 people, but I wanted to make sure that they got served the first time, and so I got very creative about having them served. One of them was a real estate agent, so I had somebody a friend book an appointment with them to view a property, and then the other one sold cars, and so I had another friend book an appointment to view a car with that person. So they served them immediately, and they didn't close. They couldn't close the door. They were in the place of business. So.
Actually, what was funny was, in the case of the realtor, after he was served, he said to our friend, "So would you still like to look at some properties?"
When he told us, I said, "Good God, that guy's indestructible." But anyway, I guess you can get creative, but if you've got a whole roster of people you have to serve, I don't know how you do that. That would be quite time.
Well, yeah, it's footwork. I've served in some very neat places. I've served psychiatric hospitals several times.
Wow.
Different hospitals, including Alberta Hospital. Alberta Hospital is a little tougher. You got to make an appointment and all that kind of stuff. Whereas the other ones, you can walk in. I just did one in Grey Nuns. Walk in to Area 92 and say, "I need to serve this to Joe Blow," and the nurse says, "Really?" "Yes." "Okay,
Wow.
I'll go get Joe." They're always worried off, and I've only had one, and she was really crazy. She really went off on how stupid I was and what have you. So you just turn and walk away after. But I've served in the hospitals. I've served in jails several times.
Wow.
Jail only allows certain people to do it, so I use Servant that they're on the list. But there's a charge for that, and they charge us for it. And all over you. I came out of the RTDRS one time, and here's the lady that I was suing come walking up. And I said, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And she says, "I'm coming to sue you." I said, "Great, here, take this with you." That was a beautiful one, yeah.
Yeah.
So the question was, how do you file a damage claim? That's how you serve. Is there a document? I'm can you step us through the rest of the process?
I'm sure the document to which?
Like, you have to go to the RTDRS and get a form and fill it out and pay a fee, and what's the actual process of
Yeah, when you go online to the RTDRS site, you got 2 choices. One is possession and the other one is damage. So in this case, you would pick the damage claim. It's very similar, but there's more detail to it, and you got to list all the infractions and how much they cost. I usually do that in my own paperwork and file it as evidence, and just put the totals where they want. And so that's how you put it together. Pictures are extremely important, before and after. If it was a really bad situation, and I've had some there where it was really scarred up, and so we took some pictures in between to show the steps that had to be done in order to get that fixed. It was more than ordinary, and that's explain a bill that's seems to be higher than what it should be. I mean, these guys see things all the time, so they have a good general idea of what things should cost.
Right.
And,
so you go online to the RTDRS site.
Yep.
And they have a damage claim there, and you fill that in and include all your pictures,
that
and
in.
the details, and everything else.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and upload your evidence and pay your fee, and they'll give you a date. As I said, it's a couple of months down the road as a rule, so you can find these people. and then they'll send you all the package, and you put your evidence with it that you uploaded, and go find these people and serve them. Most um, most damage claims are usually about a 2 hour or hour and a half to 2 hour duration. That's what they build for, whereas um, regular eviction is a half hour. So there's big time difference because you got to show that. I've had some of these big ones. My biggest claim now, I just got a new one. It was 49.6. The maximum you can do is 50,000.
Oh,
And
really?
small claim. My record before that, and stood for a long time, was 43 something, and that we got. That was the final verdict.
That makes me sad though for the landlords, because that is a horrible amount of damage.
You're not. Most chances they're not going to get that money, but
Which leads us to the next
The next
question.
important question.
How do you actually collect?
Yeah, how do you get your money?
the same as you would with when you get an eviction and they didn't pay you the rent. So it's the same process. You can there's an excellent brochure. You can get it online, and it says how to enforce your judgment in Alberta.
Okay.
How to enforce your judgment in Alberta. Getting a question?
Just give us 1 second. Private chat.
I put it in my private chat, but what I'll do is I'll pull the form and I'll put it in my membership site. So neldaschulte.com will be in the free membership site. So how to enforce a judgment.
And that's RTDRS publishes that?
No, Alberta government publishes that. That's if you want to do it yourself. So you would take those steps. There's a lot of work to it. You got to find where bank accounts are, and then you got to apply to allow garnishee of that bank account, and then you got to write a $25 check and take it to the bank, and then my frustration is I get to the bank and the account was closed, so I spent all that work and time and the $25 and there would be nothing. I garnished one guy twice. I garnished. I knew the people in the industry, and I found where I knew where he was working the first time. I garnished. He quit the next day. I knew people in the industry. I found where he went to. I did all the paperwork and garnished him at the second job. He quit the next day. So what I do now, just to streamline what I do so I can concentrate what I do best, is I take the judgment and I send it over to a fellow I use in Sherwood Park that doesn't charge unless he collects, and he takes a percentage, and it depends on the size and stuff. I don't know all his deals. The deals with you and him. I know he gives a discount if you mention my name. If you said Don Gray sent me, then he'll give you a discount because I've sent him lots of business because he's helped me. This is the hardest debt to collect. Nationally, it's about 2.25% is collected.
Oh, that's
yeah, so that's like virtually not 98% isn't. This guy, I think he's probably in the 3% range. He's got a little different method. He doesn't hassle them. He makes deals and that sort of stuff. I found him to collect things that I didn't think he was going to collect.
Oh, that's great.
But then some of the ones I thought he would didn't either. So.
And we can now, as landlords, you can report people on Front Lobby.
Yes, Front Lobby. That's a great resource. It used to be called the Landlord Credit Bureau, and yeah, that's a great resource. They send out reminders electronically. It's well worth the $20 or $30 or $40, whatever it costs to be a member. And
and then if they don't pay their rent, that's logged into their account, and it shows up on their credit score. Whereas before, up until these kinds of services started opening up, I don't know if there's another one beside Front Lobby that does the same thing, but before, tenants could not pay, and it never affected their credit rating, whereas now it does.
Yeah.
Which is good. It's something.
Yeah, when you go through Queen's Bench, when you file at Queen's Bench, you'll go through RTDRS and get the court order judgment. If it's $1,000 or more, the government sends it to Equifax and TransUnion.
Great.
But it just goes there, and it's on your credit report. And that, if something good happens down the road and you want to buy something, and you need credit for it, then you're going to have to clear that up before you get the credit. With Front Lobby, goes one step beyond that. They have a system where they send out emails, and I don't know what all it says. I've never received one, thank the Lord. But it's been effective. I know people have got money from tenants, even a couple of years old, that they got money in, and so it's a great thing. Whatever way we can help to get that money back is great.
Yeah, and to warn other landlords, because you don't want anyone else to have the same experience we did. I don't know anyone who does. If you've had a bad landlording experience, you should certainly want other people to be warned. So
yes.
It's good that we do have vehicles to warn them. And similarly, when you have good tenants, like I've got some really good tenants who went through a couple of divorces, their spouses wrecked the credit rating, but they're excellent tenants. They not only pay me on time, they pay me a few weeks in advance, sometimes a month in advance. Well, I can help them out by reporting them, because that increases their credit rating. It shows that they're making payments regularly and helps them. So if I can help them, I'm happy to do that.
It will be really good when everybody adopts these things, because
Canada-wide, it's going to make all of our lives easier.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. And it's I'm so glad it's happening. I wish it was years ago, but I remember when the tenant verification out of Vancouver was available. That was the only one available, and I thought that was great. I used to report everything. When I look back now, it seems it was a long, tedious thing, but we've gone a long ways from there, and I'm glad it's time. It's beyond time.
Keep people honest, because we've actually been able to dodge the bullet quite a few times by using the proper verification services. Although Front Lobby would have been great for us too, but we just do other.
Well, I use Front Lobby now, and I also use Tenant Q. So those are two digital property management services that are excellent and very reasonably priced. So they're good to use, but I think we've got time for at least one more story from the trenches. Todd, what's your favorite story from the trenches you'd like to share with us? Because I always
favorite story. Well, it's not too often that I get speechless, but I had a tenant one time. My operation would be that we would meet at the property. They would come up with all the money, and we'd sign the agreement. You might have signed it before, but we'd have the agreement there, and we do the walkthrough inspection, and then I give them the keys. And so this one woman, she was all lined up, and anyway, she phoned me the day before and said, I'm not going to have the money till this day. Can you come over and pick it up? And I said, no, I want to meet you at the place so we can do a walkthrough and stuff. Well, okay. So anyway, he come, and he didn't show up. But in the meantime, she had sent us a security deposit. So it was the first month's rent I needed. And so I had this money. So she's committed. So I go over to her house, and I said to her, she's looking at me like I got horns or something, and she says, "What are you here?" And I says, "Well, I wanted to get the rent money from you, and we do an inspection and I'll give you the keys. Oh, she says, yeah, I had the rent money for you yesterday and you didn't pick it up. And I'm kind of looking at her, and then she says, and we were out shopping and I saw a really nice couch I needed for that house. I was totally speechless. I had a trainee with me, and she said, my eyes got big and my mouth fell open. so that was the funny thing is, I come home and told my wife the story, and she says, "Yeah, I can understand that." So that's one of my favorite stories. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Well, I was going to pay you yesterday, but since you didn't show up, I just bought a sofa.
It's your fault.
Yeah.
It's your fault.
It was more important.
My sofa. So,
Yeah. So I mean, after I got my jaw off the floor, I told her that quite possibly she would have no place to put that couch.
Good comeback.
Yeah. So anyway, we got it straightened out, and she moved in, and she was a good tenant. Yeah. But
just an interesting set of priorities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
And that's it.
I've never
That's
heard that one before.
priorities.
I've heard a lot of stories, but not that one. So that was definitely a new one.
Yeah. Oh, and my wife tells me, and I've had other people tell me I should write a book, and it would be under fiction because nobody the stories are too strange for the truth.
Well, I think you could add a section to my book. I'm writing a Canadian landlord's handbook. It should be published.
Yeah.
Published next.
I sent you some stuff already.
But stories from the trenches.
Oh no, he said, yeah, the simple question.
We could add stories from the trenches in the book, but it might scare people off.
Oh yeah, there's been some doozies there. You can shake your head. Yeah, I mean,
Well, you just don't know how people are thinking at the best of times, and then I always find when people move in and move out, there's a certain level of weirdness that happens, especially when people move out. They're stressed out. They've got to move their stuff out.
And they want their damage
They want their damage
deposit.
like as soon as they get out of the door, and they, money is just a really big deal, and they turn into completely other people. So I might have liked them. Yeah. So I mean,
turn into piranhas, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So that always surprises me. How you could have known somebody for a few years, and all of a sudden they're an entirely different person on their move-out day. It's like, who are you?
Yeah, money will do that to people.
Yeah. Yes. Yep. Oh well. But anyway, I think that we've covered everything, haven't we? We've got what's a damage claim and
the resources collection book.
Yeah. How do you file it? When should you file a damage claim? How to file a damage claim? How to collect a damage claim? And then I'll go and look up that resource that Dan mentioned, and I will put it on my membership free resources site. And,
wonderful.
And then you also told us an interesting story from a trench that left you speechless. So
yeah. That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen too often, boy.
Thankfully, it was only temporary.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was in total shock. That was that don't happen too often.
No. Is there anything else you want to add that we haven't asked you that you think people need to know about damage claims?
The damage claim is a lot of work, and it takes extra time. So one of the things that I find every so often is not most people are good, but I find that people feel that they tell you something and that's enough, and I need evidence, and people need to think about that when they're putting the stuff together. That what is evidence? So if I was a judge, what would I want to see?
Yeah.
To make a fair judgment.
Right.
And I express that every once in a while. So, and the other thing is, of course, this business needs to be run without emotion.
Yeah.
Damn hard to do. No matter if you're the toughest guy. Sylvester Stallone still gets emotional, I'm sure, about some of the stuff if he was attacked with it. To use an example, and but that's what you gotta look at is the dollars and cents, and what is the cheapest route or the most cost efficient route. Sometimes it's just eating that and moving on.
Yeah.
Sometimes you go after it. I mean, principle is wonderful, but sometimes principle will put you under. So,
And is it worth your time? Is it worth the agony, or is it better to just let it move on? And
You
I mean,
can't
I'm
principle.
I know I have discussions with Gil about this with my properties off and on. Sometimes I'll be like, it's the principle of the matter, and he's like, what's it cost you? And what would it cost you to let it go? You know, so you have to kind of weigh those things out. But I'm not saying it's easy, because I have trouble with it. I'm emotionally invested in my properties. You know, I had to work for it.
And you believe in right and wrong too, which it's hard to get past that.
Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes it is. I'll certainly take your money if you're going to insist. I don't pull any punches. If I don't see the value in it, I'm going to tell you that I don't see the value. And if you want to keep going, well, send me the check and we'll keep going.
Yeah.
I've got a lady who, I mean, the guy obviously ripped her off $6,000, and she's suing him. He's left the country. I mean, we found out where he went, and he's been served.
Wow.
And it's going to court now. But to me, it wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
Because you're not gonna. There's no chance you're ever going to get any money. He's not going to come back to Canada.
Yeah.
No, he's country hopping. You know, he started in Scotland, and he's working his way around the world, and he's not coming back to Canada.
Right.
He ripped her off on purpose because he thought he was going to live here, and then when he got caught and started going after him, well, then he skipped the country.
Right.
You know,
as many fraudsters do. Yeah, there are actual huge cases that are on Netflix about fraudsters who do that, skip around between different countries, and they have a heck of a time catching them if they ever do. So yeah, that's tough. So Don, thank you very much for talking to us about everything to do with filing a damage claim and whether or not it's worth it. I'm very glad you put that in at the end, because that is something landlords always have to think about is, yes, you could do it, but is it worth your while? So
yeah, is it in your best interest?
Is it in your best interests or not?
And that's what I try to look after when somebody comes to me. I try to look after what's their best interest, and I know what it is because I'm an owner. I've had a property management company. I'm doing these evictions now. I mean, I know a fair amount about the industry, and I fully understand what happens to your pocketbook, because I've lost thousands and thousands of dollars through my own stupidity, and often that's the way we learn, but it really doesn't need to be, and especially today when we're getting all this stuff like this, where we're learning, we're teaching people, and we're letting them know about this. So that it's important that we get educated, and that's lifelong, educated all the time.
Absolutely, and thank you for that. So good segue into my call to action here. If you like this session and you'd like to see more, like this on YouTube, like it on Facebook, like it on Twitter, like it on LinkedIn. You can clap for it too, and share it with your colleagues and your friends and anyone you know who needs this information. Also, if you'd like to have access to free landlording and property investment resources, just jump onto my website, www.meldaschulte.com, and click the green membership button, and you can have access to them. So thank you so much, Don, for joining us tonight.
And Don's company, just to repeat.
And Don's company, Edmonton Eviction Services.
Yes, and I got to applaud you guys for doing what you're doing, and keep up the good work. It's good to see that your fan base is growing, more and more members all the time. It's a wonderful thing, and I'm glad you're being successful.
Thank you very much, Don, and we appreciate you too. And I actually love calling on you to give your wonderful advice, and I know you're
Yeah,
never
I'll talk
lost
to you,
words or
Yeah,
humor,
you,
so
you
here we
certainly
go.
deliver the
You
stories
deliver the
in,
goods.
in a very entertaining and interesting way.
Yeah. So thanks so much, Don. Have a wonderful night.
You have a fantastic one.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye for
Bye-bye.
now.